This is a very short mic for very short people, but I'll try to make do. We're talking about the smear between advertising and entertainment, the conflicts that come up. We've got a fantastic panelists. I have to tell you, I had a really interesting little tidbit. I interviewed a lawyer who specializes in the video game space, which of course is blowing up, lots of influencers all of a sudden. But he talked about an issue that I think is sort of interesting. Kim Kardashian, the bane of the existence of all of us, more or less, was photographed walking into like a Rite Aid, came out, Rite Aid, somebody took a picture of it, like a paparazzi took a picture of it, posted, the photo got out, Rite Aid said, oh, look, even Kim Kardashian comes to Rite Aid, right? And then Kim Kardashian sued and won because they were using her to sell stuff and she didn't get a take on it. So this is sort of like, she's just picking up some skincare stuff or something, and they saw an opportunity and then they got beat up and they had to start paying her a lot of money just for putting something on social media. That's the kind of interesting conflicts and challenges we face right now in this smear between advertising and entertainment. I guess to begin with, Tanya, why don't you talk a little bit, because you deal with a whole bunch of, and help place a whole bunch of influencers with various agencies like Eric's, working with people who are managed by people like Larry. What are you seeing in terms of how brands are reaching out, what they're looking for, what they're embracing these days in terms of relationships with influencers of all sizes, from nanos to macros, or what do we call them?
Specifically for advertising?
For advertising, yeah. Well, yeah, advertising.
So so I just worked on a commercial a couple of weeks ago for BioFreeze, and they wanted influencers who were athletes. And the ongoing conversation is between the director or producer who wants the best person for the job versus the executives who want the person with the biggest following for the job. So it's sort of, you have to juggle those two things. And it can become really difficult when the people footing the bill really, really want the 1 million followers, but the director just wants the best person for the job. So you wind up settling somewhere in the middle.
What is the middle? Somebody with 750,000 followers who's pretty good?
Or it depends. It depends on, the middle could be 100,000 followers on Instagram, but really great for the job.
Okay.
So they're actually being okay with smaller followings this year. I think this year there was a shift with all the press about micro-influencers and how they can be better for your brand than a macro.
And the nano influencers. That was the thing that got really, I don't want to overstate it. Larry, you're not making any money off a nano influencer, are you?
No.
What was that nano?
You can't even spell nano. It's no on the nano.
Is there a definition for nano yet? What does that mean?
Too small for Larry to care.
Or for me, yeah.
My son.
Yeah, your son, who actually is going to be seen on a Wheaties box soon, I'm sure. But so when the brands want, I guess actually, Eric, I want to hear from you from the other perspective, because you are often representing the brands in those conversations with people like Larry and Tanya's folks. So what are the brands saying to you? Are you still seeing that, it's going to be big names or nothing, or are we getting beyond? I've heard some cries, cri de coeur, for let's get away from reach, let's get away from CPMs, kill the CPM, and let's get like real people, the best people for the job. Or what's the conversation on your end?
Yeah, I think I'm just
Speak into the mic.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing from me, but thank you.
I won't let him talk long.
Thank you, David. Brands are asking for really everything, right? Early on, it was really around celebrities, right? And celebrities were the focus. And recently, we were hearing a lot of demand for micro-influencers and nano-influencers. And it was kind of seen as this single solution that could solve everything. And I actually don't think there's any one solution for brands in terms of what kind of influencers to work with. You have to look at the full spectrum. Big names have their advantages. Yes, they're more expensive to work with, but they have a certain cachet that they carry. They can be excellent brand ambassadors. They can be great for more types of like hero content. And micro-influencers, you have to pay them something to get out of bed. And from a CPM standpoint, you could very well be overpaying. But they create great content, and they'll license out that content for very little. Nano influencers, I don't really look at it. I kind of think of nano influencers like, hey, we're just getting people to talk about it, right? If you have less than 10,000 followers on your main platform, I just think you're just a person. You're not really an influencer.
So are you saying that influencers are not people? I just want to clarify here because we are recording this.
Off the record?
So,
No.
Too late, buddy. It's already been memorialized on 58 Instagram feeds, so you're done.
Eric, I call non-influencers mortals.
Mortals, yeah.
Mortals, yeah.
Normies, I think is
Normies?
the term. Normies.
Sure. I like
Good,
normies.
good.
I'm switching.
Normies is good, right? Yes, I bet you have. And this guy used to work at CAA. So Larry, from your standpoint, who's somebody who's been an agent, who's worked at Fullscreen, who's now a manager for a lot of high-end talent like Laura Cleary, what's the conversation? What's the rate questions? I mean, what's the money stuff looking like? What are the deal terms looking like? Some of those things. Talk about some of that stuff and sort of the velocity of deals that you're seeing right now. And we talked a little bit about the Writers Guild stuff and what that's meaning. Talk about some of the craziness in Hollywood and how that's filtering into this side too, if you could.
Well, we're being recorded, so I can't talk about the craziness that's going on.
Oh, you so
But
can.
in terms of the deal flow, I have a big issue with this because as a former agent and as a manager and working as an intermediary, for me, it's really about the relationship. Everyone, I sometimes get all these emails, what's their rate? What's their rate? And I feel like it's just like a bunch of like Tinder dates who are just like reaching out to me hoping to connect. And I'm
Do
like,
they say like, hey, what's up?
yeah,
you
they
know?
say, hey, we're interested in so-and-so, what's their rate?
Influencer and chill?
Yeah, and so, but the thing is that we all know there's a basic rate that everyone plays with, but everyone's scared to take that shot. And I was like, look, don't ask me my rate. Tell me what you need. Let me be a solution to you. Let's get on the phone. Let me hear what your client's needs are, and I might come up with an outside of the box idea that might make you look like a hero to your client.
So you're saying that it's possible that the intermediaries who work every day with these folks, like Tanya and you, and really Eric, might have some useful input for the brands to rely on. What do you think? You don't agree with that?
No, it's not that I don't agree. I want to add, you're wrong. I want to add to that. So I know exactly what a traditional digital influencer is worth for all their platforms before I reach out. But I'm working on a project right now with a big search engine, and they want
a big search engine. Boy, that narrows it down just a little bit. Who could that be?
They want athletes for this project, and there is no way to guess what they're worth without asking. So maybe the people reaching out to you are more accustomed to working with traditional celebrities than influencers. No.
The people who reach out to me literally are just, what's their rate? I was like, you know what? We all know where this deal's going to land. Just tell me an offer. Let me talk to my client. I understand you still have to sell that influencer to your client. I get that. But let's all be efficient. It's like, it's like when I was an agent and HBO called, I know their rates are somewhere here. The studios are up here. And it's just like, this is where it's at. All this influence.
You know what the ballpark looks like.
You know what
and
the
you don't know if
ballpark
you're on
looks like.
first base or out in the outfield.
Exactly.
But you know
and
the ballpark.
we all know that with a lot of these agencies, it's like there's so much budget and you're trying to get so much reach. So I get that. And the more we have the personal relationship, instead of just like creating a Tinder, and it really is, it's like a Tinder relationship, because I'll send an email back saying, you know what, make me an offer, or, here's that range, and then all of a sudden I'm ghosted on. Right?
Don't ghost Larry, that's terrible. Stand up and be a human.
But it's like, but the thing is that as a representative, I'm here to be a solution, because again, we both have clients.
Just wave one arm around, okay?
Both have clients,
Hold the
and we're
mic.
here to.
There we go.
Larry, are you saying this is new? This wasn't happening last year or the year before?
There's so much more. The influencer marketing has grown so much, and there's so many.
Just in the last year?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
and the thing is, and there's a whole new kind of workforce that's going in.
When you say workforce, what are you talking about
Well,
here?
it-
Not just you guys, you two and
No,
Eric's
in
team
terms of
and all
like a
that.
new generation of workforce, like Gen Y is now starting in the enter the. Put it this way, I was working with a client.
Yeah, they're old enough to go to work, right?
Yes, I was working with an agency. I was working with an agency out in New York, and the guy who I just started to get a great rhythm with, we had a shorthand, we were talking and stuff like that. He's like, okay, I'm leaving, I'm going to a new thing, but I'm going to transition you to this other, woman, this other girl on my team. Her name is so and so and so and so. Do you happen to know her? And I was like, yeah, not only do I happen to know her, I've known her since she was in diapers because
Ooh.
she was my next door neighbor, his daughter, and I'm like, wow, so it's like.
If you didn't know, Larry's OG, so.
Exactly. But there are OG sensibilities in terms of pick up the phone and create a relationship as opposed to, and I know it's a workflow issue, but again, we all have to deliver for clients, and by having that one conversation, you might get an idea that might make you look like a superstar.
So pick up the phone. I know if you're Gen Y, this is a really weird thing to think about, but do try to pick up the phone, talk to Larry, talk to Tanya. Now, Eric, this brings another question up you had suggested that we get into, which is not just what's the rate, but what's the rate of return I'm going to get in terms of, stuff getting seen, me selling stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So, as I mentioned earlier, the cri de coeur for kill the reach question and go to some other KPIs. What are we seeing some evolution? Are the brands starting to say, maybe just using metrics that wouldn't have been out of place in 1956 for television isn't the smartest way to do things? Are we actually seeing that evolution now?
Yeah, we've come a long way. When we first started the company, it was very transactional in terms of attitude and how brands were approaching influencers. And it was really like, how many influencers am I getting? Not what are they talking about, not are they relevant for my brand, not even how many followers do they have, just like how many influencers am I getting? And that's obviously the wrong way to approach it. And I think the industry has come a really long way where advertisers are really starting to understand that it's not just about getting people to post. There's a huge value placed on what they're posting. And in terms of tracking that, there are other metrics, not even just follower count, but diving into things like, what are the engagement rates that they're seeing? What are the views that they're getting? If it's a D2C brand, what are those conversions looking like? And also taking a step back and understanding, how does the influencer piece fit into the bigger customer journey? Okay,
so in terms of what you guys are seeing on the other end, Tanya, are you hearing some of this stuff when they say to you, do they actually want humans, or do they really want automatons sort of posting in a rather regular way?
It's case by case. Everybody wants something different. Everyone focuses on something completely different. Depends on the goal of the brand or the show or the film. It's always a different conversation. And you have to tailor it to either their needs or you talk them out of whatever they think they want.
So Larry, how much talking out of things that they think they want are you doing these days?
I'm sorry.
How often are you talking people out of the things they think they want these days?
It depends who the client is, right? What's interesting is it's so cool to see because the D2C clients, right? The Purples of the world, the Chatbooks, the Dollar Shaves, they are so far ahead of the traditional P&Gs and the Unilever companies
The
of the
CPG,
world.
the old school CPGs.
The old school, because these are folks who are so used to like, ooh, I got David Fincher to direct my commercial, and they could walk into the country club and say, hey, and the companies that deal with this generation, like the Warby Parker, all the direct to see clients, they are so, I mean, they're going to be the next generation. They're going to be.
Well, that's
the
why
big brand.
Unilever spent $1 billion on Dollar Shave Club,
Dollar
right?
Shave Club,
They were trying to
exactly.
bring in some DNA, right?
It's just unbelievable. So working with those clients, it's so great because they get the rhythm, they understand, and they leave it to the creator to kind of bring their voice to it, as opposed to dealing with Gillette, who's saying, well, our creative director wants, and I didn't mean to say it by name, but it's like I've dealt with them, and then like to do a brand deal with them, it was just like, slogging through the mud sometimes.
Interesting. In terms of what the folks out here might care about, let's get into a topic that none of you guys want to talk about, but I can't wait. Tati Westbrook and actually, what I really want to talk about is how brands and folks that are working with you guys can take advantage of crazy internet blow-ups like this off to the side. Because what we've seen with that one is, you guys are all young enough to have followed this thing closely, right? So, young beauty influencer, first male on the cover of Vogue, makes the faux pas of pimping for one brand while his pal and mentor was selling her own brand of the same kind of skincare product. Much hilarity ensues, but lots of people are creating content around the fight. Each of them, he's lost 3 million followers, she's gained a bunch. Her I'm done sister video took off. His apology video has had 44 million views. His apology video, which was very structured. But there's a bunch of other folks making videos, getting views, doing things. Can brands find a way into things like that and these sort of explosions, or is it just like stay away? When we're talking about influencers and fights and all that stuff, because we're seeing like KSI and Logan Paul's boxing match last summer, big things, big sort of sub-genre almost created all by itself. Can brands find a way in? Because this is like between advertising and entertainment.
It depends who the brand is, right? If the brands understand, like, hey, this is the flow of the online world, and we understand that, and we know we're going to work with smart influencers who know how to create content for trends, that's great. But a lot of brands are so scared of conflict now that they'll shy away from it. But those who are just like, yeah, we're all in, man, let's just roll the dice and we'll get the exposure and let's rock and roll.
Okay.
Those are the ones who are like, yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Tanya, what do you think?
Same answer, but to add, if like Wendy's could jump on this. I don't know if you follow Wendy's amazing Twitter. I actually found the social media person on LinkedIn for Wendy's and thanked her. But
something you can really sink your teeth into. Is that what she does at Wendy's? Okay. Don't. We've known each other a while.
But a company like, if your brand identity is to be snarky or shady or whatever the term is, jump right in. Right, and I hope Wendy's is on top of it. I will check their Twitter.
I'm just trying to think what Wendy's has to offer on a skincare product fight between two beauty people, but maybe, Eric, you can tell me how they would do that. Or somebody, who would work? Tell me who would work. You're the genius guy.
For Wendy's, I'll lean on my creative team for that. But
yeah, right. You guys come on up.
In terms of where the opportunity is, I think every sort of event, whether it's a challenge or not, opens up an opportunity. I think typically, though, the way I look at brands is you have challenger brands, which are like the Dollar Shave Clubs of the world, and then you have defender brands, which are the big names. And the defender brands are always very risk adverse. And so
they're literally conservative.
They're conservative, and it's understandable, right? Big reach, big audience, they don't want to upset anyone. And so typically for these sort of opportunities, challenger brands have really done a great job kind of finding out that niche and saying, we're going to go and take advantage of the part of the market and the marketing conversation that the big brands don't want to touch. And if they're clever and they're smart, they could find a way to turn that into real value.
Okay, so it really becomes a function of the brand knowing which side of that equation they're on, tower defense, tower offense, and figuring out, okay, I got to stir things up, or, I need to kind of protect everything.
Well, and how to navigate it, right? Like typically challenger brands have a lot less to lose, and so they're a lot more willing to dive in and say, well, here's some controversy. Let's get involved because, the press will be great.
Right, okay. Larry, you asked a question why do brands like Audible think investing into a Reese Witherspoon type of deal is better than doing a Laura Cleary integration? Laura Cleary, fantastic, very amusing, also very attractive and smart and engaging person, but a blossoming talent with a bit of a Lucille Ball wackiness to her characters that she creates. And Larry, not incidentally, represents her. But he's saying our direct response brands, star blankers. Are they? Tell me, are they? You're being recorded.
Well, what can get frustrating is there's a group of artists who, pioneer a platform, right? And then sometimes, and you see it sometimes with other platforms, it's like, all right, well now, there's a lot of talent who, the term I use is arrows in the chest and wagon wheels on their back, right? It's like, okay, they paved the way, and then all of a sudden, Hollywood sometimes is like, we like being second. We'll just spend against it. And I think sometimes on these platforms, every medium creates its own stars. And I think sometimes brands forget that. Like what Audible should understand is that they got to where they are is because there are creators out there who know how to have the conversation, who know how to talk about listening to books and using that vernacular and using those words. And then to see something like, look,
Reese Witherspoon played an author who wrote a book, right? So that means she knows about audiobooks.
Right, and look, she's a great artist and she's a great talent. She does great stuff, but she doesn't have the conversation with her audience that a Laura Cleary does.
Right.
It's like there is this generation of artists who have grown up understanding data. It's like they understand the data and now they understand the pixie dust. And so having that conversation with, Audible, they should stick with who have been charging them down the field and double down on those creators because they know how to have that conversation and they know how to shape the production values and the behavior, the consumer behavior of a generation.
So you're saying that there's not just digital natives, but there are data natives. Really, and those are the kinds of folks that some of you guys out there might want to engage with because they can speak that language and it's not a foreign one to them.
Yeah, case in point, Laura has experimented A/B. All these creators, all these influencers are A/B testing their titles, are A/B testing their thumbnails. They get it. They know what words to use when they talk about their talking points or when they use it in their videos. They know what's connected because they are watching the data.
Right. Now you talked about arrows in your chest and all that, the Oregon Trail of digital. Where are those trails going now? Tanya, what are you seeing in terms of, we hear about TikTok, 500 million users, most of them in China, but 100 million or so in this country allegedly. All of them are 12. And soon hope to have a passing acquaintance with puberty, but there's a whole bunch of them out there. TikTok, Snap still has a lot of users. What else is working, and what do you think about those in terms of finding talent that you would then bring into the appropriate client?
I'm going to answer your question a little differently than you asked it, which is...
It's probably for the best.
TikTok is definitely taking over the younger audiences and that world. Brands are slower to adapt, so I personally haven't had any TikTok interest, or even when I pitch it, because it's so important for your brand that needs to hit this audience, they're like, Instagram, and YouTube. So,
but they do like their watch. If we talk about TikTok, they like their watch, but they don't know. But this is interesting. So they don't get that at all.
2 years ago, when I'm sure we were all saying Facebook, Instagram, YouTube's not the only game in town. It took them this long to catch up to that. So,
a billion users later on Instagram, right?
Well, all these platforms are nightclubs, right? They're all nightclubs. And every generation is going to want their own cool nightclub.
Yeah.
Right.
And so right now...
This is the story of real Hollywood, right? It's like Davey Wayne's is working for 25-year-olds right now, but somebody else is coming along and they're going to have something for the 21-year-olds soon.
Yeah, it's like, the younger kids, it's like they want their own. They want to call it their own. So they're all now embracing TikTok. And, the 19, 20-year-olds now who grew up on Instagram at 15 or 13 are now, that's...
Well, I thought Snap's kind of sandwiched in between. So you got TikTok down here, Snap around 17, 18, whatever, and then the old timers at 24, 25 are on Instagram. Yeah. Is that about right?
And
okay.
Also, Twitch is doing an amazing job of getting out of the gamer, the what's the word I'm looking for? The
Twitch is moving beyond the game sub-genre.
I have a lot of cold medicine in me.
Yeah.
Our friend Bernie Sue just won a Peabody Award for his live scripted show on Twitch. So I'm really curious to see what direction they're going to take that in.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. So Peabody, one of the highest honor in broadcasting for Bernie, who is a lovely man and has done some really pioneering work back to high school. Was it high school? What was it called? High school? What was that show he did?
Lizzie Bennett Lizzie Bennett, yeah.
Yeah, Lizzie Bennett Diaries, which was a take on Shakespeare, basically, sort of.
Yeah.
Eric, what are you seeing when you're talking with your clients? How are you talking to them about new platforms? Are you getting any interest, any glimmer of awareness that TikTok or Snap, for that matter, or other platforms should be investigated?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We're always going on to new platforms. We're actually starting to work quite a bit with some of the Chinese platforms like Weibo. Personally, I'm very excited for Twitch. I think it's a huge space.
And again, not just the gamers. It's the just chatting corner of that that's looked like it's getting bigger and bigger, right?
Exactly.
They're calling me up for clients.
Yeah.
Yep.
Twitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't have gamers.
And one of
it's going well
the
beyond
old
that.
school YouTubers I'm still friends with from 10 years ago said he's making more money live streaming about whatever he talks about normally on YouTube on Twitch than he ever did on YouTube.
Well, to me, Twitch would be, if you can get any audience at all, it seems like it would be really a wonderful thing for a brand, because he's sitting there. I mean, I interviewed Ninja like in December, and he was just putting out an album. He'd done a deal with Capitol, licensed a bunch of music from people he wanted to game by. And so he puts out Ninja Works as a deal with Astroworks, but he's online, he said, normally 90 hours a week. He's talking to an audience of tens of thousands all the time directly for hours. This is like, what was that Spanish language channel, Sábado Gigante or something like that? He's like the Sábado Gigante every night, talking directly to people. And if you're a brand who has a relationship with him, I would think him slipping in, oh, by the way, my butt hurts, and I'm really glad I got this pillow from Pillows R Us, because I'm on this thing for 8 hours today. I mean, are you getting that kind of resonance and understanding beyond the gaming stuff into some of these other just chatting folks who are live streaming, talking, engaging for hours?
I think all of us understand this, but again, it's going to take the brands another year.
But we've now fixed this with everybody here, so now...
sorry. Hi, brands.
Now the industry's transformed, right?
Embrace the new platform.
Yes.